تفضل.
Is reading from the Mus'haf, is reading the Mus'haf in a non-book form, so for instance on your iPad or your phone, is that permissible, or is it disliked, is it bid'ah, or because...
طيب, okay. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Amma ba'd. The question says, is reading the Qur'anul Kareem in a state or form other than the Mus'haf Sharif, other than the Mus'haf, is that permissible? Is it a bid'ah? Is it a bad thing? Are there details or rulings that pertain to it, just like it pertains to the Mus'haf? We say, to keep things brief, the current day ulama, they have explained the rulings of tablets, of phones, of screens, etc., concerning reading the Quran and concerning preserving the Quran. And they have mentioned that it isn't haram, it isn't a bid'ah, it's okay, it's fine. Rather, it's going to take the ruling of reading the actual Mus'haf, or from the Mus'haf, the recommendation of reading the Quran, the obligation of learning the basics of the Quran for every Muslim, an imam or a speaker, whoever, who has to teach the people Quran to review, etc., etc. So that's first and foremost. That's what? That's first and foremost. It's not a bid'ah, even though linguistically it's a bid'ah. But a linguistic bid'ah or worldly bid'ah is a good thing. Oftentimes people, they have a great deal, not true, but many people, they have a great deal of, they're just super allergic to the concept of innovation. Innovation pertaining to worship. The old, traditional, ancient worship is totally bad. Period. There's no room for it. There's no bid'ah hasana. Innovation pertaining to the worldly life is the exact opposite. It is totally good. And the Muslim is encouraged to innovate and to be creative and to be impactful and to establish and make things and think and enhance and refine, and not to suffice himself with the old, and not to suffice himself with the ancient, and not to suffice himself with that which was passed down. The concept never changes. The will, how old is the will? But in 2018, we shouldn't just suffice ourselves with the old wills and old times. No. We should be constantly striving and trying to make a newer will, a better will, a faster will, a more efficient will, with less air, stronger, more, etc. And the same applies to our Islam, how we record things, how we do things, how we can give access to dawah, etc. We should always be thinking about refining it and innovating things. But the worship never ever is ever innovated. And the concept always remains as it is. The concept is always the same, of learning, of teaching, of studying, of following. That doesn't change. Where we go, whatever technology, what we have. Honesty, being an honest business person on Amazon, on eBay, hand in hand, a mud, barley, salt, dates is all the same. And being a cheater and being dishonest and not having integrity is what also the same. Cheating someone electronically and cheating them with a hand-to-hand sale, trading and bartering. That, the concept never what? Never changes. But the vessel, the means, the conduit, how we trade, how we should always be what? Things to enhance and improve the quality of life. And enhancing and improving the ways that we can give more efficient dawah. Everyone understand this or not? So it's nothing wrong with having a tablet or having an electric app, as long as the concept is the same and as long as there's no bid'ah in the actual practice. As far as touching these things, is it permissible for me to read this without wudu? Can I hold it without wudu? Can a mincing woman read it? Can she hold it? Can a kafir hold your tablet? If you're in the airplane, ulama of Islam, they say these tablets do not necessarily hold and keep all of the rulings of the actual Mus'haf. They don't necessarily carry all of the rulings. Some rulings they do. If a person, may Allah prevent or protect, if he desecrated this page or this screen on a tablet, he spat upon it, waliyadhu billah, or slammed it down, waliyadhu billah, or cursed it, then that would basically take the same ruling as doing it to the actual Mus'haf. Kufr akbar. Everyone understand this? But for me to hold it and touch it, wudu, not wudu, doesn't necessarily apply because it's different things on a tablet. I can play a game, I can play Pac-Man or chess or Street Fighter Champion Edition. I can play a game, I can play Pac-Man or chess or Street Fighter Champion Edition. Or I could read the Quran. So you can't say that you have to have wudu when you touch it or when you open up the app because it's different. It's glass. It's metal. It's not the same. Everyone understand this? Everybody clear on this or not? So there's some rulings that apply and some rulings that what? Don't apply. My personal advice, and you know, alhamdulillah, this is one of the few things in which I can say that I'm not hypocritical in, alhamdulillah. This is one of the few things that I can actually say I practice what I preach. Is for every Muslim and every student of knowledge is to use the technology in the Islamic sense. Use the technology. You should have books. You should have the Quran application. You should use these things in your phone or on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or whatever. Use it. And then the reason why I said I'm not hypocritical is because I always what? Do classes and khutbahs and fa'idas reading from it. This is one of the few things in which I can say I'm not hypocritical. So I'm giving the advice and I also what? Do it myself. Student of knowledge, you should have books. Like we have books. Some of these books, old, dusty. And this is just only one small part of the library that you see. In this masjid, in my home, in this place, and that place. But there are all types of books. And we also have what? Thousands of books electronically. PDFs. This one, that one, this one. Everyone understand this? And utilize the technology. Everyone understand to do what? And the Muslims, they should be in the forefront of these things. And they should not be what? In the back, chasing and begging and relying on non-Muslims or people of innovation, and misguidance and ignorance to lead and dictate to them with regards to technology. That's my advice. And Allah knows best.
AI one UK, Assalamu alaikum. If my non-Muslim co-worker is asking me to sign a birthday card, is this wrong? How can we approach this in other situations in the workplace?
Question is from London. And this was AI. A non-Muslim co-worker asked me to sign a birthday card. Is it haram? How should we deal with it? So on and so forth. For a person to say that celebrating birthdays is haram in al-Islam, somebody may say that it's clearly haram, decisively. And others, they may say, I consider it's haram, but decisively, no. And others may say, the exact opposite, may say it's permissible to celebrate birthdays. Three ways of looking at the issue of celebrating a birthday. The first way of looking at it is that it's decisively what? No doubt, la shak. And another person of knowledge who's learned, they may say, I can't decisively say that, but I believe that it is haram. And there are many issues like this in Islam. And which you say that it's permissible or it's haram to do this. But I can't say that 100%. Everyone understand this? There's a difference. Everybody clear on this or not? Tayyib? Everybody got this or not? And then another person may come and say what? Of knowledge. They say that there's no direct proof stating that a birthday is what? Haram. So, what do you feel about birthdays? Me personally, I don't celebrate my birthday. I don't consider it to be something that should be done at all. A non-Muslim sends me a text message, a family member, of course, not friends, family member, happy birthday, Muhammad. Say, have a nice day. Thank you, such and such. But I'm not going to celebrate my birthday. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I decisively am going to say it's absolutely 100% proven from Quran and Sunnah to be what? Haram. So if you believe the first category, then don't sign it at all. If you believe the second category, then what? Don't sign it at all. If you believe the third category, of course you're going to sign it. So at the end of the day, you tell your non-Muslim co-worker, oh, that's great. I'm happy for you, something like this. I hope you have a good day. But, my religious ideals prevent me from, signing this. Or my religious culture prevents me from what? From signing this. And I think that it's going to depend on how you practice your deen. Someone who's religious, someone who's righteous, someone who's on the sunnah, and someone who is a good professional in the workplace, the chances of them coming up to you with this type of stuff is what? Slim to none, because they already know. And I mentioned both aspects now. The religion and what? Your character and your professionalism. They're going to speak to you. How's it going? They'll make a joke. They'll say, oh, did you see the game last night? Small talk, because that's a part of being a professional in a business place. Everyone understand this? But they know what type of person you are and what type of person you what? You aren't. They're not coming to you with backbiting and with small talk unless you're actually that type of person. So what are the chances of them asking you to sign a birthday card and they know that you're a straight up Muslim that's religious and righteous and pious? They may say to you, hey, you know it's my birthday, or can you cover for me? Can you work extra hours because it's my birthday? But for them to ask you to sign a card and they know your character and your background, that's what, Abdul Khawi? Is unlikely, in my humble opinion. At the end of the day, try your best to avoid the clash and the collision. Try your best to be as smooth as possible. Use wisdom. And if you have to tell them no straight up, then that's what you have to do. Huh? But this is very important for us to understand these things. Yesterday, before we move on to the next question was asked. The question was asked by Abu Amin after the end of the Unity Conference. He said, Mufti, he says, what you mentioned is beautiful. It sounds great. It sounds lovely. But it's all theoretical. What are the practical steps of unifying? Should we be trying to unify ourselves with people of the Sunnah? We have different groups of Salafis, so on and so on and so forth. And I answered the question, but there's a way that I was thinking about I should have answered the question. And that is what is likely and what is unlikely. And it pertains to this question and this answer as well. If you have a specific pedigree, who you are, where you studied, what you teach, and what you're about, it's an automatic give or given that the people that are going to surround themselves with you or around you and vice versa are going to be people who are what? A similar like. What's the chances of some weird flying in space Sufi coming in this masjid and saying, Sheikh Mufti, I want to work with you, I want to do this with you, what's the chances of that? So no doubt, hypothetically, from the get-go, the people that you're going to try to unify with the most and concentrate your efforts with the most are going to be who? People of the Sunnah. But that does not necessitate that you do not offer service and cooperation upon birr and taqwa with those that aren't. We're here. Our masjid is available. If you wish me to come and do a lecture or do some community service or something that you feel I can handle better than this one, you can count on me. Like people do in this community, in this masjid. People that have never stepped foot in this masjid. They don't share our ideas and our values. They call me, hey, can you talk to my son? Can you deal with the issue with my daughter? Because they may feel that you can do it better than we can. And they know that we're different on many, many things. So I'm available to them. But those that I'm doing conferences with and going here and there are going to be people like what? So that's a question that doesn't even need to be what? Asked. Because it's an automatic given. Birds of a feather do what? Flock together. Hawks and geese don't hang out. They don't hang out. Hawks and geese, they're not buddies. But geese and ducks, what? Different story. And a geese and a hawk, they may come together against another animal that isn't a bird. But it doesn't necessarily mean that the hawk and the goose are what? Going to be side by side. Everyone understand the point here? The service or the door is always open for cooperation and for unifying and for teaching the truth and spreading the truth with wisdom and with gentleness. Everyone understand the difference here? And Allah knows best.
From Augusta and Cyprus, Assalamu alaikum, is using camel milk and doing a spiritual practice, or is it just a medicinal practice that was retained from the Arabs pre-Islamic?
Question OA, initials OA from Augusta, North Cyprus. Is using camel milk a spiritual practice, or is it a sheerly medicinal practice that the Arabs used and the Prophet ﷺ used? We've explained before and we'll explain again that which is called al-Tibb al-Nabawi, the Prophet's medicine or the prophetic medicine, is of two types. Not one type, but two types, two categories. The first is that which the Prophet ﷺ says and explains is divinely inspired or guided. It has a barakah. It has a shifa from Allah. It is mentioned to push away shayateen and so on and so forth, specifically. And in the other practices of the prophets or the prophetic medicine, in which the prophet doesn't say anything about, but he did it or he allowed it because it was the medicine and it was the way of curing that was known to the Arabs at that time, that they got from the Indians or from the Abyssinians or from the Greeks or the Romans, etc. And it has nothing to do with spirituality. It has nothing to do with what? Spirituality. So, what did the Prophet say about camel milk? Did he say anything about camel milk? Or did he allow the people to drink camel milk with camel urine, etc.? Everyone understand this? So, milk in general is mentioned in the Quran. Allah talks about milk in chapter 16. And he says what he says about milk. But the specifics of a camel milk or camel urine or this or that, it has to be proven. It has to be what? It has to be proven. So certain things like black seeds is one thing. Cauterization is one thing. Cupping is one thing. Everyone understand this? It depends. And oftentimes there's exaggeration on both sides. Oftentimes there's what? Exaggeration on both sides. Something that belongs here is put over there. And something that is inspired from divine revelation is put in the normal category of medicine and cure. And Allah knows best. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Question comes from Canada. What's the best way to learn the i'rab of the Quran? There are different ways of doing it. Obviously, start off with learning the basic concept of i'rab outside of the Quran, whether it's Ajurumiyya or another book. The basic concepts of what i'rab is. And everything that you learn in Ajurumiyya or Medina book or this book, open up the Mus'haf al-Sharif and read it. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He says here in this ayah, وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَهُمْ فَنَسُوا حَظًّا مِمَّا ذُكِّرُوا بِهِ فَأَغْرَيْنَا بَيْنَهُمُ الْعَدَاوَةَ وَالْبَغْضَاءَ إِلَى يَوْمِ الْقِيَامَةِ وَسَوْفَ يُنَبِّئُهُمُ اللَّهُ بِمَا كَانُوا يَصْنَعُونَ. So, what is the i'rab of this letter wa? وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ. And the word min, and the word alladhina, and then the word qalu, and the word inna, and the word nasara. Break it down. While outside of the Quran, with regards to i'rab, and generally it's going to be the same in the Quran. Inna. What does that represent? Who is Allah talking about? Or وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ وَمِن. وَهَكَذَا. So what you learn about the i'rab, apply it what? To the Quran. Even if you're not reading a book on the i'rab of the Quran, you yourself do it. And you break it down. So I don't know that much about i'rab, but I know for sure it says qalu, that's a verb. Inna, nasara, akhadna, that's another verb. Dhukkiru, that's another verb. Aghrayna, that's another verb. That na represents someone. And break it down, what you learn outside of the Quran. And then with a teacher or by yourself, when you have the proper level, you actually read the i'rab of the Quran. The books that deal with the what? The actual i'rab of the Quran, and get stronger and stronger and stronger. But before you deal with the i'rab of the Quran, you have to have a good deal of vocabulary. And you have to have a good deal of ability of discerning what's a verb, what's a fi'l, what's a fa'il, what's a harf, etc. That's the best way. And when you listen to it, do it in your head as you hear it. وَمِنَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَهُمْ. And break it down and analyze it as you're reciting it, or as it's being recited to you. And Allah knows best. Repeat the question again, please.
Can a new Muslim inherit or receive gifts from a non-Muslim family? If not, what are his options with that?
Can a new Muslim inherit and or receive gifts from a non-Muslim family member? What are his or her options, right? As far as inheritance, then the Sunnah tells us that a Muslim should not inherit from a non-Muslim, and a Muslim should not inherit from a Muslim. As far as receiving a gift, then that's a different story. It's you have more room to maneuver, okay? Whether you're non-Muslim or new Muslim or not. However, be mindful of a few things. The first thing is, it's a general rule of being mindful of taking gifts. Someone that you seem to be pure and honest and sincere, and there are no strings attached, that's one thing. Someone that doesn't seem to be that honest and that clean and that pure, and it seems like there's an ulterior motive or a string attached, you shouldn't take gifts from. Because it's only going to lead to slavery. It's only going to lead to you becoming a slave of that person and then bringing it up and reminding you and injuring you later on if you don't do what they want you to do. This could be a Muslim or non-Muslim, family member or a total stranger. Here you go. It's an iPad I bought for you. What is my past? What's my history? What's my character? Am I giving you an iPad for the face of Allah? Or am I giving you an iPad so I can have you in my debt and call upon you when I need you, whenever I need you? And if you don't do what I'm asking you to do, a word of trouble comes. In other words, I enslave you through a gift. I do what? I enslave you through a gift. Everyone understand this? So be mindful of that. Be mindful of that. And you can only do this by knowing people. Some brothers I won't accept gifts from, and some brothers I'll gladly take the gift. As far as a new Muslim, then if you're afraid, or if you're afraid for that new Muslim, if the Muslim asking the question that they'll leave Islam because there's so many rules or it's too difficult. What do you mean you can't take the money from your grandmother? You were the favorite child. You were there all of those years. You became a Muslim. Now you say, I can't take anything. If you fear fitna, and if a person may leave Islam, then take the money, whether it's inheritance or a gift. And if it is haram, then ask Allah to forgive you. But the ruling doesn't change. Because a new Muslim has to be mindful of being a what? A new Muslim. There's all types of pressure. And many new Muslims, they apostate. And they leave Islam because of things like this. There's a story years ago. I was maybe 15 years old. There was a brother who accepted Islam. He was a white brother from Upper Darby, which is on the outskirts of Philadelphia, specifically my section, West Philadelphia. So he came to the masjid. He had feather. He was a nice guy. He wanted to learn Islam. He was about my age. So we sat and we talked. So one day he says, I want you to meet my parents. I want to take you over to my parents' house. So we went to Upper Darby, went to his parents' house. So we sat down with them. We had dinner. We sat and we talked. All right? His parents are white kuffar. No problem. Everything's cool. So then one time he came to the masjid on 42nd and Walnut, Masjid Jamia, and it was early in the morning, and he came knocking on the door. Open up the door, it's me. So I said, what's going on? He said, listen, man, I have all these problems with my girlfriend. She's ready to leave me. She wants to leave me. She says I've changed. I've been brainwashed. I've turned into some type of terrorist. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm going through withdrawal, smoking weed. It says weed's haram, so on and so forth. I don't think I can be a Muslim anymore. And my parents are coming down on me. They're telling me to do this. They're telling me to do that. They say I can't do this in the house. I can't wear this anymore. What should I do? So on and so forth. The point is clearly proven. A new Muslim from a specific background, doesn't have too many friends, doesn't have too many Muslims in his area or his neighborhood, and someone's telling him, this is haram, that's haram, you can't do this, leave this alone, immediately get rid of everything. Sometimes there's too much pressure on certain people. Even though having a girlfriend is haram, smoking weed is haram, inheriting, so on and so forth. But it doesn't mean that you have to tell that specific person and throw it on them all at once. It takes time for faith to be built up. And there's some people that instantly come in strong and they get rid of everything, burn it, break the CDs, no more hip-hop, no more rap, nothing. Everybody's not what? Like that. He's still not deep. It's hard to get rid. Everybody's not like that. So, but the ruling is what? Clear. But you have to be mindful of the actual person. So that's my advice. For this situation or what? Any other situation is to use hikmah. And Allah surely knows best. This will be the end of our Q&A session. Wa sallallahu sallam wa barak ala abdi wa rasulihi nabiyina wa imamina Muhammad.